know is if we had eyewitness accounts. Wouldn't that be amazing if we actually had eyewitness accounts? Well, we do. We do have eyewitness accounts. Let me begin with those. There is, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, there is an event that happened where the people of Mecca, the non-believers of Mecca, challenged the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and said, if you're a true prophet, split this moon, split it in two and bring it back together. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told them that if I do this, will you believe? They said yes. He said okay. And he prayed to God, to the Creator, to Allah. And Allah split the moon. And eyewitnesses saw this. And I know this is an amazing, extraordinary event. That's why we call it a miracle. And it came back together the same night. Now, a skeptic would ask, okay, well, who saw this? Obviously the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But you could say, well, he's the one that's performing this, so, who else saw it? Well, we have in his historic documentation, in a book called Sahih al-Bukhari, we have the narration from Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud is one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in the narration that is on your screen now, he reports this to have occurred as well. Now, you could say, okay, well, who's Ibn Mas'ud? Ibn Mas'ud, we know exact details about this eyewitness. What was his name? His name was Abdullah. What was his father's name? His father's name was Mas'ud. What was his mother known as? Abd. Did he have siblings? Yes. For example, he had a brother named Utbah. Okay, was he married? Yes. His wife was named Zainab. Did he have children? Yes. We know all of those details. We know who his son was, we know who his father was, we know he was born in 594, we know that he died in 653. So this person who was an eyewitness, and his credibility, his abilities, his history is well known. Okay, but who did he tell this event to? Well, as you can see on your screen, he told it to Abu Ma'mar. Well, who's Abu Ma'mar? His name is Abdullah. Well, who's his father? His father is a man named Sakhbara. Well, who did he tell it to? He told it to a man named Ibrahim al-Nakhai. Ibrahim, who is Ibrahim al-Nakhai? He is the son, his name is Ibrahim, his father's name is Yazid. Well, who's his grandfather? His grandfather's name is Qais. Well, who did he tell it to? He told it to Suleiman. Well, who is Suleiman? Suleiman ibn Mahran al-A'mash. So you see, the entire community that heard this event, the chain of narrators are all well known to us. All the way to Imam Bukhari and At-Tirmidhi and other historians that wrote down this event. Not only do we know who those narrators are, we even know how reliable were they in their memorization, how trustworthy were they. We have their entire biography. Okay. Now, already we have more eyewitness accounts than for the hanging gardens of Babylon or the lighthouse of Alexandria, meaning that we actually know the person, we know their history, who physically saw it. So you could say that if such an extraordinary event happened, why is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud the only witness? Well, he's not. We have more eyewitnesses. Who are they? Let's name more. Jubair ibn Mut'im. Well, who was Jubair ibn Mut'im? He was somebody who was a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but he became a Muslim in 628 at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So that would mean that before the migration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, from Mecca to Medina, which was around 622, he was a non-Muslim. So he was from Mecca, and as a non-Muslim, he witnessed this account, and he has an eyewitness account that is on your screen. Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, Imam Tirmidhi in his Jami', authentic narration, where he also says that I witnessed it, I saw that during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the moon split and came back together. So now you have Another witness, and we have the same details about him and everybody that he reported to. Who was his father? It was Mut'im ibn Adi. Who did he have a son? Yes, one of his sons was Nafi' ibn Jubair. When did he die? 679. So with all of that clear detail, we have another eyewitness. First, that Abdullah ibn Masud, who was a Muslim already, and the other, Jubair, who was not a Muslim at that time, that later accepted Islam. Okay, well, so you got two. How many else can you give us? Many more. Hudayfa ibn Yaman. Hudayfa ibn Yaman, he was also a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We have the exact same details: father, mother, children, where he lived, how good was his memory, what kind of a person was he, what he did. All of that detail is present, and Abu Nu'aym and Al-Bayhaqi and others have mentioned his narration. So this is also, it's on your screen. He was also an eyewitness to the account. More, let's give you more. Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik, the interesting thing about him is he's born in 612 and he dies in 711. And he's from Medina. And he, in Sahih al-Bukhari, he also witnesses this event. So that means the people of Medina were also witnesses to this event. Okay, Abdullah ibn Abbas, also another witness, authentic. We have Abdullah ibn Umar, who was the son of Umar ibn Khattab, famous companion, also an authentic narration. Now, some of them, they are physical witnesses, and there are other companions who were too young, so they asked the people of Mecca who witnessed it and got the information from them. Many, many, many reports. We can go on. But a very important report from eyewitnesses is what's reported by Ibn Kathir in Bidayah wa Nihaya, in one of the famous books of Islamic history called Bidayah wa Nihaya. It is also reported by Abu Nu'aym, and is also reported by Ibn Sayyid al-Nas. In this narration, it lists non-Muslims who were eyewitnesses. So we've already given you 6, 7 of the Muslims or those that became Muslim after this event that witnessed it. But now I'm going to give you of non-Muslims. Who were they? Walid ibn Mughira. We have his history as well. We have the famous Abu Jahl, whose actual name is Amr ibn Hisham. We have Al-As ibn Hisham. We have As ibn Wa'il. We have all of these people that were non-Muslims. Not just them. We have Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Yaghuth. Yaghuth was one of the idols, and his father was named as the slave of that idol. He was a non-Muslim. Al-Aswad here. Al-Aswad ibn Muttalib, Zam'a ibn Al-Aswad, another ibn Al-Harith. These 8 mushrikeen, polytheists that were there, they were the ones that challenged the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and said, if you are a true prophet, split this moon. They are witnesses in this narration that the moon split. Now, this is very important because these are opponents. These are enemies. If the moon didn't split, they would be the first one to come out and say, you know what? We put this challenge and it didn't happen. But they were all eyewitnesses, even as enemies, that the moon did split. Ibn Kathir had this in Bidayah wa Nihaya, and I put the reference and the scan of the book. This is in Arabic, obviously, on the screen. Al-Hafiz Abu al-Qasim al-Tabrani, the famous scholar of history, and others, Al-Qadi Iyad and others have mentioned this narration. Now, Qadi Iyad, one of the great scholars, historians, in his book called Shifa, Sayyid Nas, another great scholar in his Uyun al-Athar, and I've put the pictures on the screen for you to know about these books. They mention a very important narration, and Ibn Kathir has this in Bidayah wa Nihaya, that not only did these enemies of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, witness this, but they said that if this man, Muhammad, peace be upon him, has done some kind of magic, this is a trick, then he may have fooled us, but he will not have fooled the whole world. This is a skeptical question, and this is good. So they said, we will ask those caravans that were out to Yemen or to Syria, that were not in Mecca, whether they saw this event or not. And this is a question that somebody may have. If this event happened, why did people outside of Mecca not see it? Well, they did. In this narration, they asked the caravans that returned to Mecca, and every single one of them confirmed that they also saw the moon split. So now this is very important, because not only did the people of Mecca and a report out of Medina and proponents and opponents all see this as eyewitness accounts, but people that were outside in caravans in Arabia also saw the same event. And this is something that was mentioned in the Quran. If any of the polytheists, the mushrikeen, the idol worshippers, saw this in the Quran and had not witnessed it, they would have objected to this. In the later time, this happened in Mecca after the migration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to Medina, and then coming back at Fath of Mecca, the victory of Mecca. They would have said, hey, in your Quran it says the moon split, but we didn't see it. But they didn't, because those mushrikeen, those polytheists, they themselves saw the event as well. Now, as a skeptic, somebody who's agnostic, somebody who's going to question, they may say, okay, you have reports out of Mecca and Arabia and these caravans and Medina, but what about other parts of the world? If some great event like this happened, like the moon splits, then surely people in other parts of the world would have seen it. Well, first thing, it is unrealistic to expect that people would have seen it in the daytime, right? Because we can't see the moon in the daytime. So, you know, in parts of North America and South America and Europe, if you look at time, if it was the early part of the night, obviously this wasn't midnight or 2, 3 a.m. because then people would have been asleep in those days. In the early part of the night, if the moon split, when the people were out, that means that in Europe and the United States, which obviously didn't exist at the time, but let's say North America and South America, it would be daytime. Night had not come. The sun begins its cycle from the east and sets in the west. So that means it would have been daytime. It is unrealistic to expect them to have seen it. Although if you go way back into Japan and Fiji and these areas, then it would have been probably getting very, very late, so most people would have been sleeping. But where is it likely that somebody could have seen it other than Arabia? Well, there could have been reports, no doubt, out of places like India, because Al-Hind, which would be east of Arabia, it would still be, you know, the earlier part of the night. Okay, so why don't we have any reports from there? Well, we do. In the book called Qissatul Shakaroti Farmat, which is in a manuscript format, the actual handwritten manuscript in the British Library, there is evidence that has been produced that there was an account in India regarding this by a king of Kerala, of southern India, that saw this, and later when he met Muslims, he became a Muslim. Now, you can question that report, and I did as well. We want to make sure that we're looking at authentic, well-established history. No problem.